Hey,
Hi,
Louise.
Sarah.
It's like we play, it's a game of chicken. Who's going to say it
I
first?
was waiting for you.
But I said hello before first.
You
Anyway.
did. Um,
Well, Girls Who Went Away and Fessler, we are discussing Nancy and Claudia.
just like you said last week, be prepared to get angry and upset every time, right?
I know these stories just, they're never, ever good ones. Um,
No, no. The
I
first,
mean, it's
yeah,
really, isn't it how you just get your eyes open to the injustices
yes,
and then you can never go back
no,
ever. You
right.
can't go back to think there's something okay because it's just
Yeah,
not okay.
it's just not okay. I mean, and we know this, but I do think there's something about reading someone's story. That's why it's
Hmm.
important that we all write our stories, we all tell our stories, everybody in this.
Absolutely.
This poor girl, Nancy, and this wasn't back in the 50s or 60s. This is 80s. Am I correct in that?
Nope, this was still the 60s.
Oh,
It
it
was
was.
this
You're
is
right. It
all
was
pre
60s.
this is all
Right. I
pre-Roe.
was thinking of after when she met
When
her
she
child.
met, yes,
Hmm.
but it was, I think it was 1967, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I was trying to find it. This poor girl, never even allowed to say pregnant in their home. You had to say expecting. So puritanical.
Yeah, they were very, very puritanical,
Mhm.
evangelical family. And then, she got together
Yeah.
and he just kept saying, it's okay, it's okay. It's hard to get pregnant. Don't worry, it's hard to get pregnant.
And she believed him because he's like, well, I don't see that many pregnant people. It must be difficult. I mean, this is
Right.
so naive. She didn't even know how you got
So
pregnant.
naive. I just don't know how
You don't tell your
you could
girls.
go through your own pregnancy, be a parent, and then not talk to your daughter about it. It's just so odd.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
And then she just didn't even know she was pregnant.
No, at all. Like she was 4 months pregnant, starting to show, thinking, I'm not pregnant. So thinking to herself, this isn't happening. She's in her high school room, like with a meeting going on, and her mom comes into the high school who
And
worked in elementary
sees,
school on seasons, like, come out here.
she knew, she looked and she knew. She said she saw the look on her mom's face and
And she
her mom
knew.
knew.
Yeah. And then they go over to their minister's house or something. The reverend, she'd never been in his home, and everybody's just talking about her like she's not even a person and how they'll handle the baby and her. Just like this will be handled. There's no like, how are you, honey? What happened?
What do you
Nothing.
think? What are your thoughts about this? What do you have to say?
No.
She did say, oh, and then she didn't. Now she said to her mom, like, how do they get rid of the mark when they take the
Oh,
baby out? And the
that,
mom says,
yeah.
the baby comes out from where it went, how you got pregnant. And she was just stunned.
Yeah.
And she said this was borderline child abuse to not like to have no idea
She didn't even know how it comes out or what happens.
how reproduction even worked. She had
No.
no concept of it, which is just so bizarre.
It's bizarre. When she gets shipped off to the maternity home,
Mhm.
gets put together with all these other girls. Um, they all had, is this the where she had fake names?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had different names. So she got named something else. Everybody has a different name. And she makes friends with everybody. And then when she has to have her baby, they're like, she goes in and they're like, they drugged her. They drugged her
They
so
asked if
heavily.
she could see her baby and they wouldn't
Yeah,
let her see the baby. I mean, she never got to hold him.
never.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. When she was delivering, that's what I was thinking. They said push, and she said, push what?
Yeah.
And someone says, how much drugs did we give this girl? Like that's how they're talking about her. Like she's just this. I mean, I can't imagine this is the process you're having a child.
And then she, kind of went back to her life, but was never the same and met a great guy who she
Yeah.
told right away,
Yeah.
because she intended to meet her daughter. She was like, this, or her son, I'm sorry, that
Yeah.
this is, I'm going to get him back and, or meet him at any rate. And so then it was January
Oh,
1989.
that's
That's
what I
when
was thinking.
he
Yeah.
got, her husband, helped her write the letter that would
Yeah.
and then the son called her at work crying. Um, and she'd gotten the letter, like, "Dear Nancy, I got your letter and I've read it and nowhere in it did you say you'd like to meet your son. If that's
Y-
something you'd be interested in, call me because I opened your file and there's a letter from your son in there."
He had
That
already
was
written one.
yeah.
And what was he, 21 or something? I
I
mean,
guess he was 18th, 21st birthday, somewhere around
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Oh, the other thing, how she got to this, she did go to a meeting that was on her bulletin board a long time about, are you struggling with adoption or something?
Adoption issues. And she's like, "I
Adoption is,
have adoption issues."
and she went and the first person who was in the room, the reason I mentioned this, we just talked about how important community is. The first person in the room said, "Hi, I'm Barbara. I'm a birth mother," with no like, just as a normal greeting you would say at a meeting. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm a birth mother." Like that's the, that's when she started really thinking about these issues. I mean,
Hmm.
yeah,
And then she did say, she had an abortion
yeah,
into her marriage, right? And
yeah, a
then
couple
and
years
we've heard
in.
this from we've heard this is not the first time we've read a birth mother saying this, but that she said she's heard people talk about how hard, society talk about how hard abortions are, that they're absolutely she would have another abortion and never have another adoption.
Yeah.
That she felt like it changed her personality, you
It
know?
changed her like she had been in a car wreck.
Mhm.
And here's another thing too. She said that we talk about, you know how people always say, well, I'm so lucky because I met my birth mother. I don't want to be part of that, right? Or
Yes.
something. This part struck me. If it happens when you're 14, 15, 16 years old and it's your first experience in motherhood, it makes you a little crazy. Sometimes I wonder how any of us survived it and are successful in our interpersonal relationships at all. I mean, she'd have to sequester herself away from people. It changed her personality, on and on. And that's what we're saying about trauma. This isn't
Yes, I'm,
just, yeah,
I when we have guests on that,
yeah,
still think, "Oh, I was better off." Well, you just don't know what that did to your mother.
no, it stunts people. And this is why
Mhm.
I'm wondering, she didn't mention other children. So I kind of took it that she had an abortion. Didn't she have other children?
I Did she not
I don't
have
think,
other
I don't think
maybe
they mentioned it, but maybe. Well, anyway, the fact that she had an abortion was just because she was raised so not to do that. That's the
mhm,
thing. It's like it really switched her politically. She said everything. She just
everything.
changed
And
everything.
again, this seems to be the recurring theme with in these books that we're reading, the birth mothers. The next one, Claudia,
Oh,
I related to her because
yeah.
she, fell for the
Yeah.
good-looking artsy guy that was, he was older,
Cool.
so she took that she was took an art class and
Yeah.
he was like Portuguese, dark skinned,
Yeah.
and she was met him. They've been in a class together, but then it was her 18th birthday and
Yeah.
ran into him and he said he was having a party and then they started having this affair and he was involved with somebody else and she was just in
Lot.
love with
Yeah, she even said, I don't care if I slept with him or not. It wasn't sex. It was about being around him.
yeah, gosh, do
He
have I
opened up her world. This is the one
felt
where she's close to her father, right? And she,
yeah, I like
yeah.
that. The father, and so she gets pregnant and he's like,
Oh,
no, no. And they were Catholic, so they did still send her to a home, but her
yeah.
father would come and take her and the girls. It was really, she talked about her roommates. There was a
Yes.
14-year-old, then there was someone that at the time,
Yeah.
uh so politically incorrect, called this girl mildly retarded. Really, she probably just had a learning disability.
Yes.
At one point, threw herself down the stairs to try to get rid of the
Yes.
baby.
She had been
Um,
raped and left on the side of a
Raped
road.
and left on the side of the road, and so these girls all got close. The dad would come and take them out. They were all
Yes.
pregnant, and
He wasn't ashamed of them. That's what I
right.
like. She said he didn't care that we were all pregnant. There was a black woman was one of her best friends, this really like outgoing girl. He'd take them all to the movies, to Chinese food. He didn't care if everyone stared. And I thought that's pretty big. I mean, we haven't heard that a lot actually.
And then after her daughter was born, who she named,
Yeah.
stayed with her.
Raina? Is it
Yeah,
Raina?
and stayed with her for a few days. Then on the way home, the parent, nobody talked about it, and she broke down in the car sobbing and
Yeah.
crying, and still they didn't talk about
She
it.
literally talked about that, like, I don't have the words here, but a guttural scream of
Mm-hmm.
just screaming, because she did get to hold her for 3 days and feed her
Mm-hmm.
and bond with her. And that made me think of Linda, my mother, just what to then part. I mean, I can't.
I know. I mean, I always read
Mm,
this through the lens
mm-hmm,
of being a parent and
mm-hmm.
being so bonded to my son that I
Yeah.
just
I
can't
can't
even imagine.
imagine. Sarah, I can't imagine. I hate it. Well,
So then,
interesting. Yeah.
she does go on, and she ultimately and she has another daughter,
Yeah.
and she's living in Colorado, and anyway, the first daughter, they track each other down, and the first daughter shows up, and weirdly, what was so interesting was that daughter was adopted into a Sicilian family, which is
Yes.
what Claudia was from.
Hmm.
But the daughter had a Portuguese boyfriend, so
Yeah.
which her
Crazy. Yeah.
biological father was Portuguese. So
And
this
she was somewhat almost biracial because she didn't really fit in with the Portuguese, I mean, with the Italian family, but they
well,
kind
she
of like,
was biracial, but
yeah,
they just didn't tell her that,
and they
right?
passed her off, but she knew. She was like, something's like,
Well, eventually her adoptive mother did say,
mhm,
"Of course, I'm not against Portuguese people. I adopted you." And she's like, "What? I'm Portuguese." So
yeah,
it
which is,
ended up
yeah,
having like a happy
it was a
ending in
nice,
much that you can have a happy ending, which is they had a good
nice reunion.
reunion. Her mother came, was
Yeah.
so happy to meet the granddaughter.
Yes. And
Um,
they met the father again. The
yes,
father who had
yes,
kind of
who,
blown her off, then became part of Raina's life as well. I
yeah.
mean, and the three of them were friendly, and
And he
that's
was married
yeah,
and had another child, a daughter, and they all
yeah,
embraced, it was
that's
just
that's rare and
best
really,
case scenario of
yeah,
a bad scenario.
yeah,
That was it.
yeah.
So I guess next week, where does that leave us, Louise?
Discovery and
Load,
shame.
discovery and shame. Okay, that'll be fun.
Listen, Anne, discovery and shame. Come on.
Are there any light adoptee memoirs out there? We
Uh,
anyway, well, we have Jeff coming on. We love
yeah,
Jeff. He's part of our Patreon group.
yes, I think everybody will like him too. It's a great guy.
Yep.
All
So
right. See you in
see
a
you in a minute.
minute.
See you in a minute.